These cows, they all have a necklace on, and the necklace has something that can be scanned. So they can walk through a gateway, and the gateway can identify which cow it is and let the cow go into a different area. Now, these cows are milked automatically by a robot. There are 2 pods, and the pods currently have a cow in each pod, and 2 cows waiting. Okay, so I'm going to go in there and explain how that works and show you how that works as well. Okay, here goes. Okay, so cows normally are milked, if they could be milked by hand, say morning and evening, yeah? Okay, just this cow has finished its milking, right? So it's now kicked out the pod. And you'll see that the back door of the pod will open and another cow will walk in. Okay, here comes the cow. And it, not too sure because I'm standing here, but it walks into the pod. Okay, so it positions itself in the pod now, and the pod closes it in, and it gets a treat of grain. There's a sound of grain falling. So it gets a treat of grain, and this is a camera, which now positions itself. This camera is shared between both pods. And this robot arm comes underneath and attaches one of these suction pads, one at a time, to each teat of the cows. Now, it kind of knows where they are because it knows these cows. You know, there's a lot of data on the cows. But it also has the camera just to line up if it needs to. So it's doing quite well. It's got all 4 on. And now it doesn't need the camera anymore, so this will withdraw towards me and position itself. It'll move away and to be ready to use for the next milking pod. Okay, so now the cow is attached. It actually makes a little vacuum inside these things. Like a little jiggly thing. Like when you start to milk a cow, you do this because the cat. Yeah, that sound there. That sound is the machine encouraging the cow to drop its milk. You can't force milk out of a cow. It has to voluntarily drop the milk, and that way it doesn't have stress hormones in it. So the cow's milk is now coming through these 4 different tubes. The cow's perfectly happy because it's having a snack of grain over there. You can hear it falling down, yeah? And a lot of stuff happens with this milk. First of all, the first bit of milk gets flushed away because maybe there was some dirt in the teat of the cow, so they don't want that contaminating the mother-loaded milk. Then as the milk comes through, there's a lens that looks at it, and it can identify any kind of discoloration because perhaps the cow has been kicked in the udder by another cow, and then there's blood in that milk. Now, if they put that milk in with all the milk for the day, it would contaminate the entire take of milk. So that gets sorted out there. There's an exceptionally cool thing that happens, possibly one of the things I find most impressive of this whole system, is that as the milk goes through, there's an electrical impulse pinged through it. Now, based on the data they have for that particular cow, depending on the quality of the impulse that gets bounced back, they can tell that that cow might be on the verge of developing mastitis, which is an infection in its teats. So then the farmers will be notified on their phone via an app that this cow we're worried about. They'll come and have a look at it, and they'll probably massage its teats with menthol oil, and that stimulates circulation in the teat, and that prevents the mastitis from developing in the first place. So it's used as like a form of preventative medicine. Now this cow here it's cow number 2, and it's given 5.8 kilos of milk now. You'd expect them at this time of year to be giving around about 10 kilos of milk, maybe a bit more each. Now, with milking morning and evening, they would tend to be milks and give about 20 kilos twice a day. And they found that by milking at shorter intervals, so milking like 3 times a day. This is now getting disinfected, you see, and then it comes down for a deep clean. It's now going to kick this cow out. It actually pushes the cow out, you see there, because the cow doesn't want to go out. It'll stay because it'll think it gets more grain. And now it'll open for the next one. There you go, opening up. Next cow comes in. Thank you very much. Where's my grain? And now the robot arm will move back and start that whole process again. And we'll watch it again this time. So camera goes in. And then under it goes, and it attaches teat by teat. So yeah, they found that by milking smaller quantities of milk more frequently, that the milk has a higher fat content that way. And the farmers are being paid for the fat in the milk, not for the water in the milk. Thanks, Patricia. Thank you very much. And so, yeah, that is a good reason for milking more frequently. Okay. Now, you think, well, how? I mean, how do you get a cow used to this? Well, Betsy said it was way easier to retrain the cows than it was to retrain her husband when they took on this new system. Oh, it can be all the way up to 12 kilos now. But to train the young cows how to fit in with this system, what they do is, first of all, the cows don't get milked in here. When they join the milking herd at the age of 2, they just come in here for a treat of grain. So they'll get used to walking past a gate. The gate opens because it can see which number cow it is with the scanner. The cow will come in, position itself, and then get a treat of grain. And once the cow is used to that, the farmers will then, whilst the cow is having the treats of grain, the farmers will then manually attach the milking suction things to the cow while it's in here. It's not too short. And, but yeah, it really wants the treat. I'll just keep still for a moment. Yeah, the thing is, yeah, if you don't want to go, I'm going to go. Okay, this one's not bothered. I wonder if this one's just been milked, though. Let's see what number it is. Okay, it's snooze, you lose. So let's just, where was I with the story again? Can't remember what I was saying now. Okay, is the separating the cream? Oh yes, I was talking about, and then once the cows are used to these things being put on by hand, then the next step is to get the cow used to having the robot arm underneath it, and this process of attaching it automatically. So it's all just a process. Adrian, the milk and the cream is not separated because all the milk is collected by the Beemster Cheese Collective every 3 days. And then it's taken to the Beemster Cheese Factory in this area and immediately is made into cheese. So they start the cheese making process with that. And they will want like the full milk. They don't want it messed around with in any way. They have 100 cows that are milking cows. Okay, so you've seen that a few times, all of you. I know some people have just joined, but I'm going to show the rest of the barn, and then I'll come back and look at this again, okay? For those of you who joined, and I'll explain it again. Just because there's a couple of other things to explain about the barn, which is pretty interesting. First of all, this is made for ease of use. So this is the floor of the barn, and underneath, through these slats, underneath the entire barn is the cesspit, where all the cow poop goes. Okay. And that gets mixed with big mixers to keep it liquid so it doesn't solidify. And then they use that as a fertilizer on their fields. There's 2 miles of tubing going through the manure. And then this whole gizmo here turns that heat differential into heat to heat the farmhouse. Okay. So, don't know how it works. I explained it to me. It said it's like the opposite of a fridge. I think, okay, that works for me. What if the poop, they spray it down. So, hello, cow. So anyway, yeah, it gets sprayed down because they need to get it through these gaps. So what happens is that it gets like brushed with a kind of a squeegee thing, and then sprayed as well. So when they do mix that once a week, it's really smelly. And I was coming here on Saturdays with my small group tours in a minivan with 8 people, and it was so smelly. And I said to them, asked them why, and they explained why. And then I said, like, do you mind maybe doing it on a different day? And they were like, no, that's fine. That's fine. So we could just change the computer program so we'll make it do it on Sundays. So they changed their whole system for me. These cows are just catching the evening sun here, streaming in nicely. It's probably not so great for postcards because there's too much of a difference in light. But let me just see. I think I missed some comment. Huge, yes, massive investment. This whole system cost about €1 million. But it's a huge quality of life. Oh, the cows and hens are so sweet. A huge quality of life, improvements in quality of life for the farmers, certainly. And also, it's a very, very good system for managing the cows. As I've said, they already know, how to prevent mastitis. And then what they can tell is if a cow misses a feeding. So, they know, the computer knows. Like, hey, cow number 132 hasn't been in and it should have been in. That's a very bad sign. And then what they do is the farmer and his wife and his son, who are all actively working on the farm, they will all be notified on their phone through an app that cow number 132 has now missed a milking by some way, which means that she might be getting sick. Cows get sick really fast. And if they're not treated really quickly, they die. And they don't want their cows to die. It's a very small farm. There's a lot of investment in a cow. So if a cow gets sick, they want to know and they want to treat it, which is what they do. So that's all a really amazing thing about the milking system. These are the breed of cows, Adrian. These are called moo cows. Okay. So moo cows? No, they're Frisian Holsteiners. Okay. And they have about 5 families of the cows here. A lot of their cows have hearts on their foreheads. So they got about 5 families, and they're trying to selectively breed them to have cows that produce milk for longer. Because it is one of the things about dairy farming is that a cow needs to be pregnant from time to time, otherwise it won't produce milk. So the cows have to be impregnated. Now, sometimes they have a bull and they want to cross that particular bull's breeding line with their cows. And I see the bull enclosure's gone. So they're not having a bull anytime soon. But they call the AI guy. So what happens is that the sensors, the identifier on the neck of the cow also has a motion sensor in it. So they can tell when that cow is moving around more frequently than usual, and they can tell that it's coming into heat. And then they can, if they want to make that cow pregnant, get the artificial insemination people in, and then they do that. The cows here are inside for the night. And one thing they do is they like a scratch. And up there is a yellow brush on the wall. And if the cow butts up to it, it starts turning. And that's what's happening now. So they're kind of hovering around there because it's getting a butt scratch. Sometimes they get and this cow here in front is by the salt lick. So cows are already good at self-regulating when they need salt. So that's salt in that container there, and the cow will just have a lick if it needs to up its salt. Oh. You see the brush stop turning. Let's see if it butts up to it a bit more and it starts again. Yeah, so the cows, do they go into the field? Absolutely. That's one of the big things about, they want to be eating this absolutely beautiful Beemster grass because that is the great grass that makes the great milk, that makes the great cheese. So yeah, as soon as the fields are ready, they do spend the winter indoors because if they were allowed into the fields in the wintertime, well, there wouldn't be any grass in the fields. And they would churn up what little grass there was, and it would become a mud bath. So they spend the winter in here, and then when the fields are ready and the grass is ready, they're let out. It's always a big thing because they go looning out, and they jump around. What will happen later is the farmers will come and they'll push this closer, but let me just push it closer, give her a little bit more of a snack. I'm sure she'll like me for it. There you go. Oh, now the other one next to me is not happy. It's like, oh, what about me? This one's now it's coming closer. Uh-oh. Thanks, Donna. See, they're not used to. Oh, there you go. Can't just give one of you some more food. No. Okay, I'm not going to give more food. Okay. So when there's like what they used to always manually go with like a flat-edged kind of sweepy thing and then push the poop up and it would go down these slots. And now they have like a little Dalek that does it. It does it more during the daytime when they're out in the fields. But look at this thing. It's hilarious. Of course, it's covered in poop. But it goes along like a little vacuum cleaner, but it goes along and it remembers where it's been and it goes everywhere and it just pushes along here. And then, as you can see, there's all this. And then that'll be kind of pushed up together and then forced down into the cesspit. So that's a kind of a new acquisition. And they're very pleased with it because it means a whole lot less kind of pushing poop around. Where was that? Okay, what next? In the wintertime when they're in here, obviously it smells, and from the cow pee there's a lot of ammonia. And the ammonia, they don't want that going out into the atmosphere. So there's an extractor fan up here. And that actually pulls the air from inside out. Thank you, Linda. And as it takes it through, it removes the ammonia from the air from inside. And that it actually collects up that ammonia. And then that is also used as part of the fertilizing regimen because they have potatoes and they have tulips, and they fertilize their fields at certain times of year. So there's a whole lot to it. Have I missed any questions? So if I did, if you want to just let me know. Lovely evening light, look at that. These cows are not being used to being touched anymore so much, so they're not going to, like me. How do they regulate the methane? I don't know, Adrian. I'm not sure. There's very, very strict rules in this country to do with farming. And it used to be that they... let me come to the stalls in just a moment. It used to be that they did some calculation about how many cows the farm could have. And they based it on one type of calculation, and then they changed the way they did it. And then they actually had to reduce their herd, which was a disaster for them because they had invested all this money in the milking machine because on the basis of growing the herd up to, say, 150 actively milking cows. So they had to reduce their herd down, and now for every extra cow, they actually have to pay like 10,000 euros. So it's really tough being a farmer. The government often works against them. It's shameful, I think. And, because the farms are so well run here. Certainly, I mean, in the Beemster and the Beemster, herds, I can't speak for all dairy farming in the country because I don't know about the other parts in the country and the practices, but I do know that up here it's exceptionally well done. And do they have their own spot? No, I don't believe so. They all have a spot to lie down, and that is on... I'm so curious. As curious as a cow. And they like to have a good old sniff. Does that come? Oh, no, that's a bit too close for comfort. These cows are lying on water beds. So if I went and stood there, it moves around a lot. Now, the reason for this is actually very, very comfortable for the cow to lie on a waterbed. It's probably more comfortable than straw. And also, again, they can just spray it down. And it's cleans. And all that, that water with whatever has been sprayed down off the waterbed, it just goes down into the cesspit. So it's all done, it's like a dual purpose thing here. It's got to do with cow comfort, cow happiness and welfare, and also the ease of running the farm. So you see, it was so busy in the milking pod, but now they're all like, oh, okay, I don't feel like being milked now. I want to go and see what that guy with the camera's doing and see if he'll push the food a bit closer. No milking happening just at the moment. Yes, it is cooling for the cow. So here's a cow trundling on through. For those of you who joined late, one of the big things about this is that the cows can be milked more or less at will. How do they know when to go in for milking? A couple of ways, Donna. They get a familiar feeling in their udders. No, Dawn, these are dairy cows. They're not beef cows. But they get a familiar feeling in their udders of like, hey, this is the kind of feeling that I get when I go to be milked. But they also want to go to be milked because they get that treat of grain. And they're extremely treat-orientated. It's like cow candy. So let's just see if this cow comes through or not. See, often if I'm standing here, then maybe the cow won't come through because it finds it a bit intimidating that there's a person who he doesn't really recognize, she doesn't recognize, with a funny sort of thing, like the camera on the gimbal. So I'll just stand over here and see what happens. This, by the way, is where the cows get a pedicure. So if they need to work on the cow's hoof, they put it in there. and then they have this contraption so that it can't kick them. And do they make their own cheese? No. The Beemster Cheese Collective collects all the milk every 3 days, and basically all of that milk then gets made into Beemster cheese. So the milk will be collected in this thing, and it's kept at 4 degrees centigrade, an aluminium thing. And then these containers here have grain. And they can alter the cow's feeding regimen to try and improve the fat quality of the milk. So once a month, let's try to close the door. Once a month, there's an attachment that gets put onto this milking machine, and that takes a sample of milk from each cow, and then they send that off to the lab, and all those samples get tested, and then they get told about how to change the feeding regimen. So how much fresh grass, how much silage, how many oats. There's other types of things like the waste product from breweries, which cows love, from the hops and stuff like that, or something like that. So they can sort of tinker with the ratios of the feeding regimen. So that's a pretty awesome part of it. Why is the cow by itself? I haven't had time to ask, because when I arrived, the farmer and his wife, the farmer was still in the field, and his wife was heading off to the field, because they have to, now that the tulip flowers have been topped and the flowers have been taken off, there's still stuff to do. They have to get rid of, certain types of weeds that grow up. There's a lot to do on the farm always, and I haven't had time. But the reason a cow would normally be in here is if it was sick, and or if it was pregnant and about to give birth, which this doesn't look like this is the case here. Maybe. And some cows prefer to give birth on straw, which is why they have straw. Others don't mind. And then they have this birthing mat here, which is a very good surface. It looks hard, but it's not. So that's a very good surface for that. Once the cows have produced 100,000 liters of milk, they get a cow Oscar. And here's some of the cow Oscars over here. Let me pop inside the office and show you. So here they're cow Oscars. And you can see this is Willie, 107, born in 1990. 100,000 liters of milk was given by the 14th of October 2004. And Willie sounds like kind of short for Wilhelmina. So yeah, there's various ones here. This is another Willie 121, probably the same family, I guess. And I love what they have written on their wall here. Oh yeah, they've even got a painting of that Willie 107. It's obviously a favorite cow. I know that they do get very attached to their cows. But on the wall here is a rather nice how do you say, a story here. I'll try and translate it. It says, with us here on the farm, we stand up before sunrise, we work hard, we relax in the countryside, we get nice and dirty, We walk through the it's like this slime, I guess. We work together. We walk through the muck. We work together. We mow the grass. It is wonderful. We enjoy it, and we feel ourselves to be rich. Now, oh, mud. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Patricia. Cool. Yeah, so they do work very, very hard on the farm, and everything is just so. Now, when the milk is collected every 3 days, it goes to the factory. Oh, look, here's some of their tulips, by the way. It goes to the factory, and it gets tested for quality. And if it's... I've got the stand on the tube. If it's like 5 out of 5 quality, every single collection for the year, they get an award. And that award is, well, part of it is like a Delft blue plate with that year written on that plate. And inside their living room, up on the mantelpiece is a plate from almost every year. So when there's a year missing, they'll say like, oh yeah, I remember that one time because we got 4 out of 5 on one of the collections. So yeah, so they, as I said, they do take great care. Everything has to be just clean and in good condition. Otherwise, it'll come out in the milk. So yeah, as I say, they've diversified. They've got 3 crops. They're busy all the time, but that's how they like it. And their crop, for example, their potato crop failed. And just recently, a couple of years ago. So like really useful for them that they had these other crops at the same time. But yeah, a very, very, very neat and tidy farmyard. Bruce! You want to come say hello? Bruce! Come here. Come here, Bruce. Bruce! Bruce! Oh, Bruce is not listening to me. Bruce is probably wanting food. Do they have a large workforce? No, Beverly. It's them. So it's Betsy and her husband Luke and their eldest son Nick. And then the other son, Doris, he does some work on the farm, and they have 4 daughters, 2 of whom are often working on the farm as well. So yeah, it's very much a family thing. And then when they sort the tulip bulbs, which I will show you when they do that, I'll do a tour up here. Then this is like the hello, you lovely thing. This is the typical, how do you say it? A job for school children during the holidays. You are the best farm dog. You're the best farm dog, yeah. Oh. Hey, Bruce. Bruce wants to play. Is it worth a tour to the cheese factory to follow the milk? Yeah. That factory is a bit of a problem. Yeah, the actual factory, because it's a very, very busy working factory, and the bears love Bruce. Okay, great. Look at Bruce. Bruce was meant to be a guard dog, and it didn't really work out that way because she's just too friendly. Hey, Bruce. What's that over there? So, I can't move too far because I don't know how far the Wi-Fi will go, but let me just show you. I can go down to the edge of the barn and I can give you an idea just of the lovely sort of green fields of the Beemster polder. It's a pleasure, Beverly. Pleasure. I'm very delighted to. Well, I was sitting here once, and I was chatting to them and having tea or something, And then they were talking about, I was like quite frustrated about not being able to get reception in the milking pod. I could get like phone reception everywhere but there. And then they were talking and talking, and then they said Wi-Fi in the office. And I was like, hang on, you just said Wi-Fi in the office. It's not really an office, it's just a desk in the corner of the barn. And they're like, yeah, Wi-Fi. And I was like, oh my God, have you got a long cable? And they went and they found me a long cable, and I tested it, and it worked. It worked. So I've just been waiting for an opportunity, and I thought C is for cows was a good opportunity for that. So here we are in the green fields of the Beemster polder. This is where the cows normally spend their days. So they'll be out here and come trundling in to be milked. And cows and cables, there you go. And they'll always try to get milked a little bit early because they want the snack. And then it's a situation of like, computer says no, because the computer goes, it's not your time for milking, it's too soon, you just want a snack. Go out and eat more grass. And it just doesn't let it into the milking pod area. So then it has to go off and eat more grass and then come trundling around again. And D is for dog. and have another go. Oh, I'm talking about Bruce has come running up to me here. Hey. Now, she used to jump up so much as a puppy, but she's, I don't know, she must be about 6 or 7 now. But she's become a very chunky dog. But what a life this dog leads.